Oh wow, look at this, another white guy in his 20s talking about Sonic the Hedgehog. Shocker.
No-life nerd who's never gotten pussy before in his entire life.
Growing up, I had a very different relationship with Sonic the Hedgehog than most people do. And I'm not talking about like the DeviantArt type of relationship, I'm talking like, well, you know, I shouldn't have to explain myself there. I didn't own very many Sonic games growing up. Rather, I was more indoctrinated into the series by the comics. I had a handful of the Archie comics, probably about 20, definitely not any of them in chronological succession, trying to piece together what little semblance of a story there was. But it wasn't until later in life, probably about 10 or 11, that I played my first Sonic game, Sonic Heroes, on the PlayStation 2. And it was all downhill from there. I was obsessed with that game. Mind you, I wasn't in that cognizant state where I was good at video games yet. I just enjoyed playing them because they were fun. I didn't really have comprehension of like, oh, well, I should try this, this, and this to get to the end of the level, or, you know, use strategy. It was more so, hey, look at me, I'm pressing buttons and moving around. I played games because I enjoyed them, not because I wanted to beat them. It would be no exaggeration on my part to say I might have spent like 100 or so hours as a kid just playing Sonic Heroes. I never beat the game, but I would play it over and over again. Going back now, if you're looking at the pre-recorded footage, I can assure you I'm not bad at the game, it's just not good. But that aside, from that point on, I was becoming more familiar with the franchise. I got the Sonic Mega Collection Plus for PS2, which had all the Genesis games, some of the Game Gear games. But I wasn't interested in the Sonic games. Now, I spent more time playing, like, Comic Zone once I unlocked it than the actual Sonic games. The only one I spent, like, a decent amount of time in was probably Dr. Robotnik's Mean Bean Machine and Sonic Spinball, which probably says something about me. I've never actually completed any of the original Sonic games or Sonic and Knuckles. The only Sonic game I've ever completed all the way through, now that I think about it, is Forces, and that was only for an easy trophy more than anything. Other than that, my only experience with the games was whenever I went over to a friend's house, I'd play 2 hours of Unleashed, or whatever amount of time I could stomach of Sonic 06, because I thought it was so cool to see Sonic in 3D. But my history aside, I'm sure you can guess why we're all here today. Sonic Frontiers. It's a game that's coming out. Unless you've been living under a rock, you probably saw that IGN was hyping up their gameplay release trailers of Sonic Frontiers in the beginning of June. I've seen Mr. Jeff Keighley try to claim it is part of the Summer Games Fest, but honestly, I'm not 100%. I think Keighley might just be aping off the fact that it happened in June along with Summer Games Fest, because it seemed like a pretty IGN exclusive thing. But technicalities about that aside, it's a game alright, with Sonic. It's hard to describe it. If you've seen the trailer's gameplay footage, you probably have the same opinion as me and probably hundreds of thousands of other people. The best comparison I could make is they took a default Unreal Engine map and plopped Sonic into it, and then added bits and bobs here and there to make it more Sonic-y. When I say they plopped in stuff, I mean like they just drag and drop. There are rails floating throughout the skies, there are just random springs and turbo pads here and there. It doesn't really feel like there's any rhyme or reason to the layout of anything that's there. It just all seems to be almost randomly generated to a certain extent. And I know that's probably not the case, as there are, you know, rails that lead to certain places, or rails that go over and around things, and rails that lead down from the top of towers, and rails that go through the trees, and rails. Why are there so many rails? I mean, I get that rail grinding is a pretty quintessential, integral part of Sonic, but holy shit. Did half the gameplay reveal trailer have to be grinding? Well, yes. Yes, it did, because the remainder of the gameplay trailer is uninteresting, honestly pretty slow third-person movement. It doesn't really feel much different from any other open-world third-person game, aside from the fact that your character model is Sonic. When he's just walking around, it looks like it's going to be stiff and takes a while to pick up momentum. There's also a boost button, but that's another issue you may be able to pick up on in the trailer if you look close enough. The boost is limited, like as if you're riding Epona in Ocarina of Time. You press a button to get a temporary speed boost before returning to, your normal maximum speed, which is fine for most traversal systems, but Sonic's supposed to be fast. You don't want to have him go fast and then slow down again. I know there's obviously the boost gameplay that's kind of become a thing in most of the modern Sonic games, Generations, Forces, all that. But even with that, it's usually something you can use throughout the level without slowing down unless you're doing complex platforming or fighting enemies, which isn't happening in the first gameplay trailer. You're just running. And mind you, all this again is coming from somebody that doesn't really have any investment in the franchise, but I enjoy the games. I want to see good games, and Sonic has always been a series that's kept my interest, so I want to see a good game out of it. It just doesn't seem like it feels right. Which is an odd thing to say because this is obviously a gameplay video. We can't tell what it feels like to play it yet. For all we know, the controls could be perfectly one-to-one and the controller operator for the video was just bad, which I have my suspicions about. Obviously, there's still a bit of time to go before the predicted release. They said, I'm pretty sure it was winter 2022, which means that there's a bit of time still, but like most fans online, I don't think that would be enough time to round out all the edges. I haven't seen like any in-depth description of it. Mind you, I haven't read any of the press stuff about it. I've just watched the trailers and all that. But Sonic has like this weird, the best way I can describe it is a Pokemon Ranger ability, where he creates this trail behind him, and when he circles something, it does damage to it. Which I could see working somewhat, but it just doesn't feel like a very effective method of combat. Along with that, he also has like these special animations, which you'd think would be finishers, but it seems like they just happen at random during combat, which is something that I don't think we should have to speculate about. If they would just show us the HUD, or at least like explain what's happening in the moment instead of just giving a quiet gameplay trailer, it might alleviate some concerns that people may have. I'm not making this video because I want to criticize what we've seen. I'm just here to say what I think could be improved. Obviously, this is still an unfinished product. You can tell by, pop-in that happens and unfinished animations like the bird. Editing Noah here. I went on like a 3-minute rant about the unanimated bird in the gameplay trailers, so just consider yourself lucky that that somehow got deleted out of the audio file. But it's still being worked on. It's not effective to just break down, criticize something because it's not finished. Rather, give constructive criticism, feedback, input on what you think should be done better. And I know it's probably going to fall on deaf ears, but at the very least, I'm sure some of you out there share the same feelings and opinions. I am certainly looking forward to the game still. I think this is the first Sonic game I've ever actually, paid attention to the release of and actually somewhat cared about. And there are some positives about the game too. This is the first, as they call it, open zone Sonic, which gives me hope that there's going to be more areas than just this generic Breath of the Wild open grassy field. Because even in the beginning of the first gameplay trailer, he says that it's the island that Sonic wakes up in or whatever in the beginning of the game, implying that there's probably going to be more biomes or something like that. Addendum, the wiki says that it takes place on the Starfall Island, which will comprise various biomes. Okay. And there are other positives to it as well. Ian Flynn, the former writer of some of the Archie comics and the Sonic Boom TV series, is penning the script, which, not to go into much more negative criticism, but I have some concerns about, because we don't know how story-heavy the game's going to be, how it's going to play out, if there are going to be cutscenes, is there going to be text boxes. That's all stuff that remains to be seen. The point is, as many people have already said, it just needs work. It doesn't really feel like a Sonic game. It just feels like an indie game that they plopped Sonic into, or even a fan game, but that's an insult to some Sonic fan games. I know there's time, and fans have been shockingly, voluntarily pushing for the delay of the game so they can have better quality control, which is always a good thing to see instead of, you know, people being rabid and chomping at the bit just to get their game. I remain hopeful. We've had quite a few good things in the franchise for the past few years. Sonic Mania, the movies. I'm not really counting Origins because of the whole deluxe bundle issue, but anyway, it remains to be seen. I know this video probably ended up going nowhere in the end, but that's kind of what these are for. Sit down for a while, talk about random shit, probably make no damn sense. But I remain hopeful. As any Sonic fan will tell you, the series has had its major ups and major downs. And as somebody that's, I would say, a fan looking in from the outside, I have a relative amount of faith. Please don't make me regret saying that, Sega.